So, ladies and gentlemen, actually, before I start, I'd like to say that it really is a fantastic view from up here on the stage, seeing all of you in person. And in Germany, we say it's Balsam für die Augen, which is something like lotion for the eyes, which actually doesn't make much sense, but it's just to underline that it's really spectacular for us to have you all here today in Hanover after we had the last two previews in a digital manner. You can expect that we were extremely excited to have you all here today in Hanover and to meet you face to face. We have 120 journalists all the way from Asia, from all over Europe, from the Americas, taking part at the preview today, and we are extremely honored and happy that we have 25 exhibitors of Hannover Messe here with us today as well. You've already seen them outside setting up their stands with really, really cool technology. I saw robots, I saw AR applications, I saw a solar ice-making machine, exoskeletons, so a lot of really, really cool technology. And these exhibitors will be showing you what they will be having on display at Hanover in April this afternoon, so all of you can get a sneak preview and so you can really look forward to that. But before we come to that, we want to give you an overview of what are the key topics and main topics of Hannover Messe this year. We'll be doing that in a press briefing, which will take around 1 hour approximately. And I'd like to introduce to you the speakers for today. We are honored to have our partner country, Indonesia, with us today, represented by the Director General of the Ministry of Industry, Eko Cahyanto. You just explained it to me. Perfect. Great to have you here, Eko, today, and to see what Indonesia has to offer as partner country of Hannover Messe, but also what Indonesia has to offer as a partner of many, many companies worldwide, actually. Great to have you here. And you can see it on the big display over me, Solutions for a Climate-Neutral Industry. That will be the major topic of Hannover Messe this year. And of course, if you look back at the past years, a company that has always been driving innovations in the fields of automation, digitalization, energy efficiency, bionics, has been Festo. And we are truly honored to have Dr. Nina Geisert here with us today, who will be giving us insights of how Festo, yes, wants to make the world a better place through a bionic photocell. You've already seen that outside. It's the technical object with the greenish light in the middle. And she will be explaining to us Festo's vision of actually making the world a better place, reducing the CO2 footprint of industry. Great to have you here today, Dr. Geisert. Really looking forward to your presentation. And last but not least, of course, we want to give an overview of Hannover Messe. What are the main topics? What is the setup? And that will be brought to you by Dr. Jochen Köckler, CEO of Deutsche Messe AG, and responsible for Hannover Messe in that term. Afterwards, after we've heard all three keynotes, you'll have the possibility to ask your questions, which will then be answered on stage. And before we start, two last bits of information from my side. First of all, the keynotes will be partly in German, partly in English. So if you need simultaneous translation, grab yourself a headset with the coordinating channel. Then you can have the simultaneous translation. That's the first bit of information. And the second bit of information is then after the lunch, all of you can go outside and start to network with the exhibitors. All press releases, photos, and so on and so forth is already available on hannovermesse.de right now. So if you want to gather the information digitally, just go on the website. And yes, that's as much from me for this point. Really, really excited to have you all here. Really, really looking forward to this afternoon with all the cool stuff that's on display outside. And with that, I'll switch back to German. Damit wechsle ich dann ins Deutsche. Herzlich willkommen. Schön.
Welcome, it's great to have you here, and I would like to pass the floor to Dr. Köckler now, who will give us an overview over the Hannover Messe main themes. Thank you.
Ja, ganz herzlichen Dank.
Thank you very much, Anuga. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to give you a warm welcome to the preview press conference for Hannover Messe 2023. I think all of us are feeling exactly the same thing. As human beings, as people, Finally, we can get together again in person. Coming up the escalator, in fact. We saw how everybody was speaking to one another, having discussions, and this shows that finally we have proper trade fairs taking place again. And again, we have a countdown, because there's no uncertainty anymore as to restrictions, what's allowed and what's not allowed. Finally, I want to shake myself and just say, look, finally we can get away from the world of video conferencing, because you have to adapt you have to adapt your mindset after a few years. So getting out of your house, home office, getting into the trade fair halls, into competition, because this is what a trade fair is. This is what Hannover Messe stands for as well. It's like an Olympic Games of ideas, an Olympic Games of innovation. And if we have a look at the current situation in the world, and I think this applies to all of us, when you read the news, then every day, what we used to do in these situations was create events to show why innovation could be necessary, but the 4 key challenges I'd like to mention here: climate change. I think everybody, the more often you are online, you can see that every day you can see the negative impacts of climate change. Simultaneously, we have a scarcity of energy. This is something we could never have imagined. Worrying about whether it will be warm enough. Every people looking at their stack of wood, seeing if it's enough for their fire. We've also got disrupted supply chains. This is a new phenomenon as well, because we're hearing that products can't be delivered because parts are missing. And particularly here in Germany and in Europe, we've got a shortage of skilled workers. So there are 4 significant challenges that we have to face, and I think we all agree that the solutions will be of a technological nature. So the solutions can only be found in technology, and at Hannover Messe both of these come together. The big challenges, 4 of which I just mentioned, will meet with technological solutions here in Hannover. This is what our slogan is. Slogan is making the difference as Hannover Messe. Because after all, not only one single person or one single company has the solution. It's not going to be one single innovation that will make the difference. It's everything together. Now, the concept of the Hannover Messe is a cross-sectional technological trade fair. If we didn't have it, we would have to invent it in order to provide solutions. The team at Deutsche Messe arranged the platform for Hannover Messe. But it's only as good as what the exhibitors exhibit. And on that note, I'd like to say a big thank you. We expect around 4,000 exhibitors. Exhibitors showing all of the things relating to automation, software, supply, and how they all interact. I'm very grateful that the large tech companies will be present: Microsoft, SAP, Google, Siemens, Bosch, Schneider Electric, Siemens Energy. So the big DAX companies as well. We're also extremely grateful that small and medium-sized enterprises will be represented as well. So I'd like to say a big welcome to Dr. Geisert as well. I'm pleased to have Festo here, because Festo is your textbook medium-sized company which was showing what it can do here at the Hannover Messe Preview today. But I'd like to say a big thank you to all of the exhibitors present today. Lancer EFM, Bafakris, Harding, Pepper and Fuchs, you name it, lots of exhibitors. So a big thank you to you for joining us today. It's great that you're going to be at Hannover Messe too. Academia, the bridge between applied sciences, the Fraunhofer, for example, Fraunhofer Institute, but also startups. This is also a very important component. We'll have more than 300 startups at Hannover Messe as well. So again, you can see that this is a unique blend. Because it doesn't matter where innovation comes about, whether it's in a family enterprise, in a large company, a small company, an old company, a young company, everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome to the Olympic Games of Innovation. Now, these are the key trends. Now, as somebody who organises trade fairs, I would say this is the reason to visit. We appeal for you today to specify the mega trends. And I'm sure that your readers are more than welcome to come here and find the solutions. Industry 4.0. 10 years ago, it found its conception here, an age of digitalization of industry, which we are currently experiencing. We also have AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Energy management as well, a comprehensive topic. In recent times, a lot has happened in this area. We also have hydrogen and fuel cells. And, as you always see, CO2 neutral, carbon neutral production. For Industry and Manufacturing X. I didn't come up here on the stage today to tell you that it's a surprise that there's something else about Industry 4.0, but what we have witnessed in the age of Industry 4.0 every single year in April in Hanover is that data are the focal point. So what's happened? You've connected industrial units, you've collected data, and only by using these data, only by gathering them and deriving things from them, can they be used in a practical fashion. So Manufacturing X is a decentralized data space for industry. And we will show you the first steps of this with the BDI, the VDMA, the ZVEI, who have come together to work on this, and also the Commerce and Climate Action Ministry as well, to look at Industry 4.0. And this is a field where everybody will be interested, because at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the sovereignty of specific companies in the age of Industry 4.0. The second topic, machine learning and artificial intelligence. I can remember quite well around 5 years ago when I spoke about artificial intelligence for the first time at the Preview press conference. Now, I have to admit that I wasn't 100% sure about what artificial intelligence had to do with an industrial trade fair, but I think that not just the journalists amongst you, but also a trade fair manager who is allowed to give a lot of speeches during his duties, with ChatGPT. Anybody who has read about this over the last few years will see that how powerful artificial intelligence has now become, because it does nothing more or nothing less than access existing information. Now, if you apply ChatGPT to industry, then what you will see is that designing a machine. So you say to artificial intelligence, design a machine. How can we find the solution for a problem? Now, over the next few decades, this is something which will be very, very relevant for industry, and thus for the Hanover Trade Fair, the Hannover Messe. Now, we do have tours for our visitors. We've got lots of offerings at the different trade fair booths. And although it's difficult sometimes to grasp some of these topics, it's important to get people accustomed to these type of topics. Now, we've got a shortage of skilled workers. It is an issue. In Germany, in Europe, we need to be able to apply these technologies, and we need the requisite skilled workers. Now, this is a significant reason to visit the Hannover Messe in April. Energy management, there's been fundamental changes here as well. If you think about the challenge, then it's not just about producing energy, reducing CO2 consumption. Now, in Lower Saxony, yesterday we had a beautiful blue sky, 12 hours of sunlight. There was a little bit of wind as well, which means we probably had quite a high amount of renewables generation. The previous week we had a very non-windy day with grey clouds, so it means that energy availability in industrial production needs to be managed in a smart manner. And most important is the energy that hasn't been consumed. This also applies to us as a trade fair. This is a topic which we're focusing on. We're looking to understand where exactly energy is consumed. All of this will be covered by the topic of energy management. Software meets the machines. You need to control everything in a completely different way, which means sector coupling, for example. This is energy for industry. And also a topic which, over the last 10 years, I wouldn't necessarily say has been neglected by Industry 4.0, but one of the questions was how to deal with this. But now it's a completely logical component of factory design. To ensure that industry works, you need smart energy management. I'm delighted that Siemens Energy, as a new company, will have a significant showcase on this topic and will be providing solutions. Hydrogen. Now, for me, for us as a trade fair, hydrogen is simply a wonderful topic. If you look at the logic behind it, it creates the solutions for the first two challenges that I mentioned. How can I ensure that renewable energies can be supplied so that you can counter climate change by increasing the amount of renewables? This is increasing renewable energy production, and hydrogen allows you via electrolysis to provide a fuel for renewable energies, which you don't necessarily need at that specific point in time. Now, just a stone's throw away from here is Salzgitter AG. This is where steel production will switch over to being hydrogen-based. This is not just a conceptual study. This is going to be reality in around 10 years from now. 1% of German CO2 emissions will no longer take place in Salzgitter because the energy will be generated based on hydrogen. So, there's a lot of questions surrounding this. Where exactly will hydrogen be produced? In Lower Saxony, or perhaps in Patagonia, or in Indonesia, or in Portugal? Last year we heard a lot about this from the partner country, perhaps in Scandinavia. How exactly will the hydrogen be transported? What will the pricing be like? So I'd like to say a big thank you to more than 500 exhibitors who will be exhibiting on this topic in April. A significant reason to visit. To come to Hanover, to learn to understand hydrogen, to see the advantages, the disadvantages. This is the great thing about being a trade fair after all. We're not dogmatic. We supply the platform, and we look forward to a lot of discussions on the various topics, because hydrogen certainly does have the capacity to become a game changer. Now, based on what I've said so far, you will know that CO2 production, but I don't think this is news to anybody here. When you see what was agreed on in Brussels yesterday, if you follow the daily discussions on the topic, you'll see that it's the task of our generation, and also over the next few years which lie ahead, to increasingly move towards CO2 neutral production. This is possible using technology, as proven by the examples that I have just cited. And we're at a very important point for industry, politics, business, society. We've got lots of journalists here as well. Industry is providing solutions. They're going to showcase solutions. Now, this is important news to society. Industry is the enabler. It has the technologies to make this possible, which is why it's not only a megatrend, but it's also one of the key topics of the trade fair. We're also delighted that for the 20th time we'll be able to have a symposium on women power. So, as I said, a 20th edition. So what's a significant topic for female careers? We expect a few thousand participants. If you have a look at what's happened over the last few years, you can see we got on board with the topic quite early. It's the 20th edition, as I've said before. We'll have the 11th Engineer Power Women Award ceremony. We will show you some of the best examples to show how female careers can look in MINT subjects. Now, for us, this is very important. It's important that we motivate even more women to pursue MINT careers. So this will take place on the Friday with Hannover Messe, but there will also be an event on the Thursday evening as a precursor to it. I'd also like to say a big thank you to our partner country, Indonesia. Now, Indonesia has set itself a benchmark. It quickly wants to become one of the 10th largest economies. Now, Indonesia is the largest economy in the ASEAN group. Now, as the Director General of Industry will hear what the content of the Partner Country Showcase will be. We're very grateful to them, and after what we've experienced in the 3 years, we're very humbled to have Joko Widodo, the President. He's announced that he will be here on the 16th of April for the opening, and that he will also be joining Chancellor Scholz for a tour of the trade fair. This shows the value of the global platform, the Hannover Messe. And also to the Ambassador, Mr. Horbas, I would like to say, will be in the Guinness Book of Records. This is the longest partner country ever, the longest partner country showcase ever, because we wanted to do this, and then we did it digitally in 2021. Mr. Widodo joined us from the Presidential Palace. This is back when Angela Merkel joined us as well, and the digital version was good, okay, but now we're going to do this properly, face-to-face, in person. So a massive thank you to you for your show of confidence and also for the excellent cooperation and helping to enhance the international character of the Hannover Messe. You're an excellent partner country with a lot of power, because all of the global topics I mentioned, all of the megatrends, affect Indonesia, because Indonesia is a society which is 15 to 20 years younger than Germany. It's a growing population, and all of us at the end of the day live on one planet. Here you can see the layout of the trade fair, 4,000 exhibitors. We've divided them up into different segments. What you can see here is it's color-coded. We've got the Future Hub, engineered parts, automation, motion and drives, energy solutions, digital ecosystems, compressed air and vacuum, and also the conference stages. So the reason to visit is the megatrends. The responses to the challenges are in the individual segments. We are very grateful that we were able to fill 15 trade fair halls, that we've got a great growth trajectory following the restart of the Hannover Messe, which took place last year, and we are very much looking forward to the showcasing of the technologies of the future in April here in Hanover. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I was able to convince you that Hannover Messe is taking place at exactly the right point in time, and that for me, somebody who for 20 years has been organising trade fairs, and the most important thing is the magic of a trade fair, and that this magic continues to exist. Who would have thought 2 years ago we weren't allowed to have any trade fairs? There were lots of different options to try and have digital networking, but when people actually meet face to face, when we were able to discuss these topics in person with people, we need a trade fair platform, and the Hannover Messe is a global trade fair, and more than ever it is suitable for precisely this. As you can see, we are highly motivated, we are supplying the platform, the exhibitors will be bringing their solutions. We're very much looking forward to April. Thank you very much for your attention, everybody. I am now delighted to get Mr. Eko Cahyanto.
As our partner country, the stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kohler. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. Guten Tag. Meine Damen und Herren, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Eko Cahyanto, Director General of Industrial Resilience Regions and International Access from the Ministry of Industry Indonesia. First and foremost, allow me to greet and sincere thanks each and every person present at this press preview of Hannover Messe 2023, where Indonesia will be the official partner country. From the 17th to 21st of April 2023, Hannover, Germany will host the Hannover Messe, which will be open on 16th of April 2023 as the world's largest industrial technology exhibitions. This event will showcase all significant technological advancement and industrial significant sectors. I'm proud to say that after 1995 and 2021, this year, in 2023, Indonesia, the largest maritime country in the world, the third largest democracy in the world, the fourth most populous country in the world, will be the partner country of Hannover Messe 2023. And this is our third time become the partner country. As Dr. Kohler mentions, today, this year theme, the climate neutral is our concern. Is our country concerned because of we have about 17,000 islands as the largest archipelago in the world. The climate change is the aspects of our concern including of the development of our industry. As you know, in this year, we will bring the tagline, The Infinite Journey, the Indonesia role as the official partner country of Hannover Messe 2023. The aim is to show the world that at this event, you can see the growth of our export, the growth of our industry is our very big concern of our economy. Industry is the biggest supporter of the Indonesian economy and also the biggest part of our development. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last 18 months, the development of industry, as it shows by the Purchasing Manager Index, always put the industry in Indonesia in the expansive conditions. So this the very big signs that we can handle the pandemics very well and we can grow stable and sustain. The event's tagline is intended to inspire and encourage attendees to embrace the limitless of our opportunities presented at the event. Indonesia is the country with limitless potential in terms of resources, consists of its nature and people that have to adaptably to Industrial Revolution 4.0. Indonesia, which consists of 275 million people, spread in 17,000 islands from west to east, as large as United States, the biggest economy in Southeast Asia, and also the biggest country in Southeast Asia. Indonesia participation at Hannover Messe will also improve ties with Germany on a bilateral level, as well as all countries and playmakers all around European regions, and eventually with the rest of the globe. In 2020, our manufacturing reached the growth of 5.31%. And on the other side, our import manufacturing growth by 4.89%. From this overview, we can say that Indonesia trade balance has been continuously grow, especially in 2022. We export food and beverages, base metal products, chemical, pharmaceutical, electronic parts and equipment, as well as textiles and apparels to the world. On the other side, to fulfill our raw material for industry, we import most likely the similar products such as metal goods, chemical, pharmaceutical, machinery, base metal goods, and food and beverages from the world market. The Making Indonesia 4.0 roadmap and its implementation showcase industrial estates and special economic zones with industrial themes, the concept of developing the national capital city, investment policy, sustainability, and energy transitions are all issues that Indonesia will bring up in supporting the Making Indonesia 4.0 program. The Making Indonesia 4.0 roadmap will also include this inclusive sustainability, startup businesses, and technology development, as well as to support the circular economy. The Making Indonesia 4.0 primarily involves 5 elements: the artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, enterprise wearables, advanced robotics, and 3D printing. These main elements are intended to support the expanding digital economy and incentive for industry. The target of Making Indonesia 4.0 mainly to achieve in 2023, including 10% net export contribution to GDP, 2 times improvement of productivity to cost, and 2% R&D spending to GDP. This all inspiration mainly focus on 7 sectors: the food and beverages, textile and apparels, automotive, electronics, chemicals, medical equipment, as well as pharmaceutical. As mentioned before, Indonesia participation in Hannover Messe 2023 has marked the fact that Indonesia is the first ASEAN country as the official partner country at Hannover Messe for 3 times. This year, we come up with the tagline of the infinite journey. This year, participation will also aim to improvement of inclusive sustainability, technology development, as well as promoting the circular economy. The main purpose of Indonesia joining as the official partner countries are representing Making Indonesia 4.0 program, promoting industrial cooperations, promoting foreign investment and export, as well as improve bilateral relation with Germany as the home country. Starting from the creation of PNC technology, Indonesia will advance even further. The light of this, the tagline depicts Indonesia's journey towards an infinite future with the spirit of optimism and wide range of future possibility. The employed logo is a symbolic abstraction of philosophical spirit of the 7 sails of the PNC ships, represent the 7 seas of the world. That means PNC ship has sailed many countries and oceans in the world. Trade and industry have long been connected through the Indonesian island using the PNC ships. All discussed issue of Indonesia as official partner country in Hannover Messe 2023 will center on the conversation of traditional manufacturing into a sustainability and innovation, the development of human capital, startup developments, investment, industrial zones, as well as energy transition. Ladies and gentlemen, with the infinite journey spirit at the Hannover Messe 2023, Indonesia will highlight the most recent technological advancement and industrial technology investment potential through the organization of Making Indonesia 4.0 related events, business summit and conference at Indonesian Pavilion at the Hannover Messe Fairground. The whole interaction and activities will undoubtedly be advantageous of all parties involved, particularly from the advancement of industrial technology. We will bring around 150 co-exhibitors, consist of 124 companies, including the industrial parks, 7 educational institutions, 10 ministerial institutions, and 8 associations. Those associations represent at least 500 companies, including the SMEs. It is a crucial turning point in our ability to work together and advance as a community, exploring new possibilities and change in the industrial sector will undoubtedly improve our collective capacity to foster economic progress. Let's set sail to the infinite journey of sustainability in terms of both technology and economy. We'll see you in April in Hannover. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Eko, for this great overview of what Indonesia will be showing at Hannover Messe and the importance of the whole topics around industry, innovation, sustainability for Indonesia. I have actually one question. Indonesia has very ambitious plans concerning the goal of being net zero. I think the future capital should be net zero by 45 and the entire country by 60. How do you think that the presentation at Hannover Messe can actually help kickstart, have an impact on those really ambitious goals?
As you see from our presentations, that the climate change is the things that we have to fight. These are our concerns. We live in 17,000 of islands. Not all islands are big islands. Most of them are small islands where many people live there. So we introduce and promote the standard of industry, green industry in Indonesia, and make an industry obligation to put the industry in industrial park so we can control and handle it. And also we want to get the gains of our natural resources, our rich natural resources, for the betterment of our people. We have now about 275 million people. It will reach 300 millions for several years, and we are responsible to manage all the peoples. So we thought that the industry is the best chance to betterment and for the prosperity of the people. So that's why we are very concerned about the development and sustainability of the industry. The energy transitions we promote also to fight the climate change we face now, and we adopt the principes of eco-industrial parks for all the industrial parks in Indonesia. We will show several industrial parks that promotes and also backed by the renewable energy for the source of energy.
Perfect. Thank you, Eko. Thank you for your insights. And we're coming to the next speaker, and that will be very interesting for you as well, because Eko told us in beforehand that he's not only general director of the ministry, he is also a lawyer, and in your free time, a farmer.
Yes.
And the next topic has something to do with bionic farming, as well as reducing the CO2 footprint. So we're welcoming Dr. Nina Geisert on stage, who will be giving us some insights of that. Thank you for being with us. And I'm happy to introduce Dr. Nina Geisert from Festo, who will be explaining to us what that bionic photocell, or
photobionic cell.
I got it wrong again. Photobionic cell actually is. It was on display at Hannover Messe last year, and we're keen to know exactly how it works and what the developments have been since then. So looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I want to speak about how we can lead the way towards a real circular economy by fusing technology with biology. My name is Dr. Nina Geisert, and I work at a company called Festo. Festo is a family-owned company, and I think family-owned companies are a big strength of Germany, because we do not only think in circles of 3 years or 5 years, we think in generations. And with research, innovation, education, and especially with responsibility, we are ready for the future. Festo sells and produces and innovates products for factory automation and industrial automation. We sell, for example, pneumatic drives or electric drives. We sell controls. And our customers come from all different kinds of fields. So, for example, we have customers from the car industry, but also the cell phone industry or the food industry. And our goal is to increase the efficiency of our customers. In the 90s, efficiency always meant more output in less time. But this actually changed recently. Efficiency today means to produce more with less resources needed, with less energy needed, with less materials needed. And to be energy efficient, we have to have all the components of a machine working together perfectly. All the machines of a factory have to work together perfectly, like the parts within an organism. And at the Bionic Learning Network, we used to look at organisms for quite some time now. We looked at butterflies and birds, and if you have ever been to the Hannover Fair, you might remember some of these projects. If not, here's a little booster for your memory. So within the Bionic Learning Network, we built kangaroos and ants and birds, and we always tried to learn from nature to improve technology. So for example, let's look at the bird. Spring is approaching soon, and the birds come back from Africa to Europe. Storks, for example, they fly from Africa to Europe in one go. And they can only do so because they're very energy efficient. Their strategy is to reduce weight. They have hollow bones, and so they are very lightweight. And by this, they can fly from Africa to Europe. And this is something that we can directly transfer to industry. If we want to transport something, and if it's very heavy, we need a lot of energy. If we reduce the weight, we directly reduce the energy consumption. So we learned about energy efficiency. We learned about machine-machine communication from swarms. We learned about human-machine interaction and built compliant mechanics. We learned about smart materials, and we used artificial intelligence. A couple of years ago at the Hannover Fair, we showed a learning gripper, a gripper that was able to learn by itself to identify objects and grab them. And now we have these learning algorithms in our products. We have valves, for example, that learn to reduce their energy consumption. But learning from nature is a good thing. But today's problems are so much bigger. We have a growing number of people living on this planet. Soon we have 10 billion people living here, and they all need food. Further, we have the climate change due to increased CO2 levels in our atmosphere. These problems are so big that we cannot just reduce our CO2 footprint a little bit. It's not enough to reduce our energy consumption. We really have to think in a new way. It's not enough anymore to learn from nature. We have to integrate nature. We have to fuse technology and biology and bring it back into a balance. At the Bionic Learning Network, we always try to start with understanding the problem. Our current problem is that our industry is based on fossil resources. So we use oil and gas and coal to heat our houses, but also we use it as a raw material to turn it into products. So oil and gas is, for example, used to turn it into clothes, otherwise I would be naked here. We turn it into chemicals, into medicines, into food, and we turn it into plastics. Let's stick with the example of plastics. So we take crude oil, turn it into a plastic bottle. Then we use the plastic bottle for just once or two times, maybe for a year. And afterwards, we throw the plastic bottle away. It either ends in the ocean, which is horrible, or it ends in landfill, but mostly these plastic bottles get burned. So we take crude oil, turn it into plastic, and then we burn it at a certain time later. And then we always add CO2 that was first bound in the ground, and we add that to our atmosphere. And we have to stop doing this. So what is this, what we're using? What is the oil and gas and the coal that we're using? Actually, this is photosynthesis that happened millions of years ago. On our planet, there was trees and forests, and there were algae in the ocean, and they did photosynthesis. They took CO2 from the atmosphere, built biomass, and then they settled at the ground of the ocean, were covered with sand, and over millions of years it turned into crude oil, gas, and coal. And we humans, we used this in just a couple of years. So what the nature built in millions of years, we just used within the last maybe 100 years. But we can also use photosynthesis today. Photosynthesis means that plants or algae take CO2 from the atmosphere together with water and the energy of sunlight. It gets turned into oxygen that humans need to breathe and into sugar. And then the cells eat this sugar. They can actually grow, or they can turn that into products. We can use the energy of sunlight with photovoltaic, or we can use wind energy to heat our houses or drive our cars. But we also need the crude oil or something to generate material. And photosynthesis is the only way to use the energy of sunlight to really make something new. Everything that we consume is based on this. So food that we eat, corn, this is photosynthesis. And we can also use it today. So algae are the key here. Algae are tiny climate savers. They fixate about 10 times as much CO2 per square meter and year compared to terrestrial plants, compared to corn on a field or canola or, for example, a tree in the forest. Furthermore, the cultivation is simple and easy, and there are tons of species out there in the ocean that we have to discover. We only know a couple of them yet. But to use their full potential, we need automation technology. So last year at the Hannover Fair, we showed the photobionic cell. It is efficient due to smart controls and automation. In the screen area, we have the algae. The algae grows there, and to really use it, we give the algae the perfect day of the year, the perfect sunshine, but not only for 1 hour, but 24/7 and 365 days a year. Therefore, we control the light amount. So if we have few cells, we give them few light. If we have lots of cells, we give them lots of light. We give them the exact amount of CO2 that they need, but also the oxygen concentration we measure, the temperature, the pH, and the media. For example, temperature, cells grow very slowly at 10 degrees. They grow much faster at 20 degrees. They grow optimally at 35 degrees, but at 50 degrees, I just boil them and then I have soup and I cannot work with it anymore. So I have to control all of these parameters. But in biology, the parameters always affect each other. If I change one thing, I directly change something else. If I change the temperature, this affects the CO2 that can be solved in a liquid. When the CO2 concentration in the liquid changes, the pH is affected. So it is important not to control only one single parameter. I have to control them together and bring them in one big model to really optimize the whole system. And it is important to look at the whole system in a holistic fashion. Therefore, we have a tiny little multi-sensor on top. It measures the temperature outside, the light intensity outside. So something very simple, when the sun is shining outside, I turn off the light inside to make the whole thing more energy efficient. And then one more thing is, we optimize the data that we retrieve. Normally, a biologist goes to the bioreactor and pulls a sample, and then he goes to the lab and measures and analyzes the sample, and some results he just gets the next day. If something is going wrong in the bioreactor, it is too late to react 1 day later. Then, actually, you have to discharge everything. We have a sensor based on quantum physics, and we bring tiny little bits of the bioreactor next to the sensor, and we ask the cell, how do you feel right now? And with this data, I can react much faster and keep the bioreactor running for a longer time and have it in a perfect state. And then we take all of this data and bring it to the biologist in an online version. So the biologist can actually sit at home and look at the data, because cells, they like to do what they want to do, so often they're ready for harvest at night or on a Sunday. This is not a problem because we give the data to the biologist, for example, via an iPad, and then he can look at it from home and decide, is the algae ready for harvest or not, or he can actually also harvest it from home just by pressing a button. So with all of this automation technology, we managed to increase the efficiency by the factor of 10. So now I can fixate 100 kilogram per square meter and year. So this is 100 times more than a tree in the forest. Here you can see everything in a video once more. We have the bioreactor, and you can see it also standing outside. The algae is growing inside the bioreactor. We give the cells CO2, the cells fixate the CO2 from the atmosphere and turn it into biomass or into products. We measure all the data, how the cell feels, how the temperature is inside the bioreactor, and we really get a lot of data that we can use to then make predictions and control the bioreactor in a perfect fashion. We pull samples from the bioreactor and bring it next to our sensor with the quantum technology and can ask the cell how it feels. We control the CO2, we control the oxygen. And then all the data is given to the biologist, so we can track the data, we can learn from the data. We also have an augmented reality that we used last year at the Hannover Fair. We pump the algae into this leaf-like structure, and there they get a special load of sunshine and CO2. And when they go back, they take the air with them, and we bring this air again through the bioreactor so that we have the perfect CO2 exchange. And we have the little multi-sensor on top that measures the light intensity and the direction, for example. This is our second bioreactor. We used it for our experiments, and here you can see how we made tiny, tiny little bubbles so that the CO2 perfectly goes from air into the bioreactor. So I'm convinced that this is the real basis for a circular economy, because this is the way to really take CO2 from the atmosphere, bring it into the bioreactor, and turn that into products. We can take CO2 from the atmosphere and turn it into food. We can eat the algae. We can turn it into medicine or into cosmetics. We even can turn it into bioplastics. So instead of using crude oil, we can use the algae, turn it into bioplastics. We use the bottle for a while, and then we burn it, and we only set free the CO2 that we fixated before. So this is a real circle. And if we do that in an industrial fashion, we can generate enough to then generate different products, and we can replace fossil resources. Also, the water, we run in a circle. So we always use it again. And this is also very sustainable, because we don't have to give nitrogen or so to the corn on the field. We keep it in the system and recycle everything. Obviously, with this 15-liter bioreactor, we cannot save the world. We have to have much higher volumes. We have to use artificial intelligence. We have to combine it with new technologies, for example, photovoltaic, to generate the electricity to run the system. We need to harvest the biomass in an efficient way, and we have to use new organisms, for example. And at the end, we have to process what's coming out of the bioreactor. We can do this in an old petrochemical fashion with 800 degrees, but we can also do that with enzymes at 37 degrees. So we can have bioprocesses that are more energy efficient, and we can turn the algae into new products. You might still think, well, this is not enough to save our planet. Maybe we need 2 or 3 planets to generate all the resources that humans need. Let's do some math. Well, all the plastic that humans need per year add up to about 0.9 billion tons of CO2 equivalents. And 1 ton of algae fixates about 1.8 tons of CO2, and we can grow about 6,000 tons of algae per square kilometer. If we add up all of this, we end up to a tube system of 84,000 kilometers. We need this to substitute all the plastics that humans need per year. And this sounds like a lot. But at the end, this could fit on 1% of the Sahara. On 1% of the Sahara, we could harvest enough sunlight and grow algae to not need any fossil resources to generate plastics. So it is possible. And we are just at the beginning. With the Max Planck for terrestrial microbiology, we did some experiments. We made new cells, synthetic biology, and these can actually fixate 2,000 kilograms of CO2 per square meter a year. So these are lab experiments. We are just at the beginning here, but it is possible. So when we use regrowing resources, we can transform them into products. We can use algae, but we can also use corn. Obviously, we want to eat that most of the time, but we can also use waste. We can use waste wood, or we can use waste from the food industry and turn it into products using bioprocesses. Steve Jobs said, "I think the biggest innovations of the 21st century will be at the intersection of biology and technology. A new era is beginning." Just recently, with the new inventions in biology, we have the tools to generate almost everything that humans need with biotechnology. We can produce food, we can produce medicine and drugs, we can produce plastics. All of this is technically possible with bioprocesses. And we can use regrowing resources to run these processes. So we can create a circular economy by fusing technology with biology. I'm a biologist, and I think this is really the foundation of a circular economy. We can generate a sustainable future. We can generate enough food for everyone. We can use regrowing resources. We can live in a climate-neutral fashion, and we can generate a circular economy. Well, I'm a biologist, but some other scientists may say, well, it is hydrogen, maybe it is smart algorithms. I think the problems of today are so big that we probably will not have one solution, but this is a big key, and others will be presented at the Hannover Fair as well. So there are inventions and innovations out there that can solve our problems. I'm convinced humans created the problems, and we can solve these problems. But we cannot do this alone. We need politicians to understand and listen. We need politicians to invest in these ideas. We need, for example, the EU, UN and the governments to set the right goals. We need smart engineers to work on these ideas. But the problems will not be solved within the next 5 years. This is something, the transformation of industry away from fossil resources will not be done within 5 years. It will take maybe 50 years. And therefore, we also need the next generation to work on that. And we heard that before. The next generation read a lot about climate change, about the pandemic, and about the war. But we have to give them an inspiration why it is worth working on a great future, because there can be a great future. This is your job as journalists. Make the kids believe in a good idea, make them work on that. You can inspire them, you can stream these ideas, you can talk about these ideas, you can write about these ideas. Please help the young generation to really look positively into the future. At the Bionic Learning Network, this is always our goal. We want to make kids smile, we want to inspire girls and boys, engineers, scientists, journalists, everyone. We also want to inspire old people and young people. We are convinced that technology is the key to a good future, and we can do this together. And with this, I wish you a great day today. You can ask me more questions later. I wish you a great Hannover Fair. Keep your eyes open for the solutions that are out there. Spread the news, inspire people, and thank you for your attention.
Nina Geiser, thanks a lot for this really inspiring keynote. I actually have one question before we ask the other two gentlemen on stage is, actually, how were the reactions during Hannover Messe last year and after Hannover Messe? Because seeing what you just presented, I would assume that companies that produce plastic bottles and stuff like that would immediately get in contact with you and say, okay, when can we cooperate? When can we work together? And what time schedule are we looking at?
Well, there are lots of companies working on new ideas, working on new bioplastics, on new materials that are biodegradable and stuff. And we got into lots of contacts. We are still working on the algae. We want to make it a step bigger. We are also working on other ideas. I think we will have to put all these pieces together, and then we're ready for the future. And we're working on that, yes.
Okay, perfect. Dr. Köckler, Eko S.A Cahyanto, would you please join us on stage? I'll move over here. I'll ask you to come my way, which is front. And now, ladies and gentlemen, meine Damen und Herren, you have the chance to ask your questions. Sie haben jetzt die Möglichkeit, Ihre Fragen zu stellen.
So you can ask your questions now if you wish. Simply put your hand up.
Colleagues on the left and on the right that have microphones, that will bring you the microphones. I don't see any questions. Oh, I see a question over there. Lady on my right-hand side. Okay, the microphone is going there.
Ja, guten Tag, mein Name ist Anne Richter von der...
My name's Anna Richter from Aktuelle Technik. I have a question for Fester. Now, at the end of your presentation, you were talking about getting young people on board to pursue industrial careers. Now, what, Festo, do you offer? What type of opportunities do you offer? And how exactly are you inspiring young people to get involved? What do you think the different options are here? Well, Festo is a family-owned company, which is why for a number of years now we've been trying to train people, young people, old people. At the end of the day, learning is a lifelong process. We do a lot about this. The bionic projects have also been converted into children's programs. You know, for example, you're able to build a bird or build a fish because they learn about the hardware, but also learn about software, learn about electronics, and so that all the different components are merged together. Now, with our bionics projects, we can appeal to a lot of young people, which means we're quite fortunate. We're fortunate because we always get some excellent applicants, but I've heard from other companies that it can be very difficult to get good staff, which is why you have to start with kids who are in kindergarten, for example, try and get people interested in the important topics. But it's not just good engineers that we need. It's not just good scientists that we need. We also need legal experts who know a bit about biology. Because if we want to implement these products, we need legal experts who are familiar with the legal background to all of this. We need to know how new technology can be implemented. There are lots of different people with lots of different skills that we need, and this is what the key is to everything. Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Further questions? Ich sehe keine weiteren. Over there.
For Dr. Geisert, when you mentioned about the algae, because we are from Indonesia, are you talking about like the algae of the seaweed or the seagrass, or different type of algae? Thank you.
So algae is something that is used for hundreds and thousands of years as food. In Asia, it's more common to use macroalgae for sushi, for example. In Europe, it's not that common yet, but we have to work on that. Just yesterday, I read an article. Thousands of years ago, we were people moving around and herding sheep, and then we started to farm the land. Now we have to start farming the ocean. We have to grow stuff in the ocean, macroalgae and microalgae. And I think especially food can be grown on the ocean, but if we then also want to turn it into bioplastics, then maybe a closed system is better, especially if we want to do pharmaceuticals, because in the closed system, I have control over everything.
Thank you. We have one question over there in Bayerdorfer. Okay, afterwards, sorry.
Dr. Geibert, I come from a background that's actually more technology rather than journalism, but as I heard your presentation, one of the interesting things that came to mind was we have a lot of different industries that are CO2 heavy, And that could be construction, that could be multi-mode sites, that could be agriculture, even cities and the environments that we live in. My question is around how practical is this technology today, both in terms of the deployment aspect, but also the cost, obviously. But then also looking at it in terms of what value can it provide over and above just the CO2 recapture. So things like, can we use the algae as a raw product, as you mentioned, for other things? There's also, for example, the and this is actually a use case that I've seen before, where algae is being included in food for farm animals to reduce methane production. So are those types of things sort of creating sort of a circular economy? And is that a way to perhaps promote the use of this technology in those environments, not only from a cost and obvious climate improvement aspects, but also in terms of the value add that it can provide through these other capabilities, whether it be using the algae for methane reduction, for fertilizer, for production, as you said, of plastics and so on and so forth.
In the 90s, algae was already a big thing, and especially in the US, lots of companies tried to grow algae and use it for e-fuels. It didn't work because crude oil was still too cheap. Well, this is changing, and the mindset is changing. So personally, this technology is still way too expensive, but we have to do it because we cannot just continue as we are working today. We cannot base our industry and our life on burning fuel and coal. That's not the option. And if we do not start working on that today, we will not have the technology in 20 years. So I think hydrogen also went through these stages, and I'm still not 100% sure if hydrogen will now really fly. But if we don't try it, we will never know. So we have to invest our thoughts and our technology into these ideas to make it happen.
We have one last question here in the second row, please. Microphone is on its way. Einmal kurz die Hand nehmen, Bayerdörfer. Exactly.
Ja, Mathis Bayerdörfer, SBS-Magazin.
My name is Mathis Bayerdörfer. Mr. Köckler, a question for you. Could you please summarize again? Last year, the Hannover Fair was very successful, but the international flair was sort of missing. What do you expect for this year? And what is the role of classical automation at this year's Hannover Fair? Because automation is also very, very important next to all the things you mentioned, of course. Well, the internationality will be a lot higher than last year, of course, because travel restrictions are less, and the number of exhibitors is at 4,000, which is a positive trend compared to last year. Now, internationally, regarding exhibitors, China plays a major role. China is more slowly being integrated because of the COVID restrictions. You all know about this. Now, we are still booking co-exhibitors. That's part of our campaign. We are on the road with press events like this, and we are happy that all of you are here, and the trend is definitely very international. It won't be at the level of 2019, but it will be high. Automation, Industry 4.0. Those are absolute key topics of the Hannover Messe as such. We heard about it, that circular economy will be increasingly important, and all of those things are sort of merging more and more. Now, in the past years, we talked about energy production a lot. Now we're talking about automizing energy. Automation experts will be present at the Hannover Fair, and on the biological side of things, there's of course digitalization, manufacturing X, using the present data. That's the enabler in order to tackle this challenge. That is the approach in order to solve the problems. Another question over here.
Dankeschön.
Thank you. I have a question for Dr. Geisert. You mentioned this during your presentation. In Esslingen-Bergheim, you use the sun for cooling. It's attractive in Indonesia. We've got so much sun. Will this also be possible? Is it cost intensive? Is it an effective way of reducing CO2? We don't have any new technology which is comparative to the current level of photovoltaics, solar power. I think solar power is a very important point, and as far as I understand, our buildings are carbon neutral because we have solar panels on the roof and we do use them. That said, I believe that overall we need to have a more circular mindset. If I've got a pigsty, for example, which produces residual heat and CO2, you shouldn't just emit it into the air. Instead, you should use the residual heat in order to power the next process. And this is what we can do in industry as well. It means that you could take a factory, for example, and have a closed circuit, use residual heat for another process, the exhaust air for another process. And this is what we are doing. We're working on new products which are more energy efficient. We are working, for example, also on compressors which are significantly more energy efficient. We are looking at solutions, but I have to emphasize we deliver components. We don't produce algae. We want our customers to become more efficient, and what efficient means at the end of the day is that you consume fewer resources, and we can provide consultation for this. We've got consultancy tools, and ultimately it's the performance of a number of actors. So thank you very much, everybody.
Vielen, vielen Dank auch an Sie.
And thank you very much to all of the participants as well.
We would like to invite you to a short lunch break. I think the catering is already set up in the back. And afterwards, after you've strengthened yourself, you have the opportunity to get in touch with all the exhibitors outside in front of the hall and network and find out what will be on display at Hannover Messe 2023. Thanks a lot for being here and looking forward to getting in touch with you in the next few hours. Thank you.